I just think that the Charmed ones so far, you know, they have Harry, they have the elders that are supposed to be guiding them, and yet they still don't know anything about their powers. How is that possible? Hey guys, it's Kristen, and today we are talking about episode 14 of the Charmed reboot. Before I get into it, I just want to say I have noticed that these videos aren't really doing as well anymore, so I want to hear from you guys. Do you actually want to see me keep talking about the Charmed reboot, or would you rather I focus my attention on something else? Let me know. I'm going to leave a poll here so you can share your thoughts. But if you do want to continue watching Charmed with me, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and of course leave your thoughts in the comments about this episode. Let's talk about it. So this is probably the first episode, I would say, that we really saw like an everyday demon type of thing happen to Macy. She's talking to Maggie in the kitchen and she puts her hand on the stove and doesn't even realize that her hand is burning. I would love to see more things like that happen in the series, where there's these just little strange things that happen to Macy that kind of are a result of her having this demon blood in her. So I really like that we got to see that, and it just kind of gave you this another level of like something's going on with Macy, and I hope they do more of that. And because of all the stress of just all this demon stuff that's going on, you know, Galvin is already on his trip trying to figure out how to learn how to get the EB out of Macy. There's just a lot going on, so Macy's like, I just need to relax. I need to chill out, and what is the best way to do that? Watching some TV, binge watching your favorite show. So she's trying to relax, she's watching her show, she's got some aromatherapy. Something happens where that aromatherapy bottle spills on some electronics, and it turns out it's not really aromatherapy, but more of a potion, a spell, that now makes it so that the characters in this TV show come out into the real world. And I thought that was a really cool concept. I was really excited for this episode. First of all, because it reminded me of the OG Charmed episode Chick Flick, which was one that I thought was really fun. They had a demon that could pull horror movie characters out of the movies. And I also like the two guys who were guest starring as the angels, Jimmy Tatro and Scott Porter. So I had pretty high expectations going into this episode, and I gotta say I was a little bit disappointed. I felt like it was more of this surface level story, that they didn't really kind of dive deeper into it. Like, I really enjoyed the necromancy episode and the pixie episode of this season because it kind of gave me the vibes of like an OG episode where, you know, you had the Season of the Week format. Sometimes there was like these quirky things going on, and you also had these characters that, at least to me, felt like, you know, they could recur and come back in this world that we're in. But with this episode, I think I was expecting a little bit more. You know, there were a lot of 90s references, a lot of like TV sitcom references, but I don't know if that was enough to save this episode. We have these characters from a 90s TV show coming out into the real world, and at one point our real world characters end up going into the TV show. That part especially, I was like, they could do something really cool there. Like, yes, it was fun to see Macy kind of know what was going on in the TV show and be able to kind of predict what was happening and even change things. Kind of like, what would you do or what would you change if you were in an episode of your favorite TV show? Like, that's a cool idea. I just feel like the way that it was done felt very surface level to me. I didn't feel connected to the new characters that we got to meet, and I think that there is definitely a way to do that. I mean, like, even in the Chick Flick episode of the OG Charmed, we got to meet this character that was kind of like the hero of the horror movie, and he and Phoebe had this like connection, and at first he was very like two-dimensional, but as the episode went on, he definitely became more of a fleshed out character, and I wish that they had done something like that here, where you just felt a little bit more connected to these characters. There was one scene though related to that storyline that I really liked and I thought was very like funny and kind of poking fun at this TV show as well, which was when the two angels found out that they were in a TV show and that they were not real. They were kind of telling Macy, well, how do you know that you're not a TV show in our world? And I'm like, that's so funny because this is a TV show. I feel like in this episode that was kind of the main storyline, but we also did get to learn a couple of other interesting things that I want to tap into. At the end of last week's episode, there were these hooded figures with bows and arrows, and they shot Jada, and then it ended, and that was like this big cliffhanger, and I know everyone had a lot of theories of what could that mean. Are these Darklighters? Are these witch hunters? Could this really have been a moment where Maggie was maybe seeing the future before it happened so that she could stop something? There was a lot of theories going around, and it turns out Jada really did get hit by that arrow. And then kind of in this conversation with Nico and Jada after the fact, we learn a lot. It turns out these people are witch hunters, and they're working with Nico, so what is going on there? Nico, we find out, is getting married. scene, we also learn from Jada that it turns out there's this whole other spell that Mel could have used to save Nico's life without having to make it so that they had never met. And Jada was surprised that the elders hadn't told her about it. And it just seems like Jada seems to know a lot and has been teaching Mel all of these different things that the Charmed Ones are not learning from the elders. And when you really think about it, I feel like they haven't really grown their powers that much. Yes, the powers that they have, they're very good at using them, but when you think about it, like Jada's the one who teaches Mel how to kind of use her powers in a different way. They end up using her time ability to speed up the timeline of a potion that normally needs 2 weeks to work. Even with Maggie in this episode, she's having this intimate moment with Parker, but there's still this little bit of fear in her because he's a demon. Maggie's basically able to take her raw emotions and turn it into this energy blast, this protective energy blast from down below to protect herself, essentially. And I think even in past episodes, like when the necromancer comes into the picture, she teaches Macy that she's able to just think about stopping the mouse's heart, and she can do that. And she ends up doing that later on in the episode with someone else. I just think that the Charmed Ones so far, you know, they have Harry, they have the elders that are supposed to be guiding them, and yet they still don't know anything about their powers. How is that possible? Why aren't the elders teaching them or guiding them? Why aren't they using the Book of Shadows? And honestly, I'm trying to remember, when was the last time that the girls really used the power of 3? You would just think that the girls' powers would be progressing, that they would be using the power of 3 more, and also that they would just be spending more time together, because when you think about it, every girl, I feel like, is spending so much more time with their significant other, and they're not really coming together as a sisterhood very much at all. And so when you do get those moments, like the end of this episode, there was like this cute little moment that the girls are all sitting in a bed together kind of chatting, you know, those are the moments that you're like, oh, okay, this is heartwarming, like this is awesome. But you very rarely get those moments now. So for me, this was not one of my favorite episodes of the season, but I do think that it opened up my eyes to things that I feel like are not working or things that are working and that I would like to see more of. Like I said about the girls just like not really being together that much. I feel like in order to be the Charmed Ones, they really need to have a stronger bond. I do want to get into that cliffhanger with Maggie and Parker. So the two of them are, you know, trying to be intimate yet again and hope that no energy blasts come out of nowhere and knock them out. And I have to say, I really enjoyed the little conversation that they kind of had about being afraid of hurting the other person or being afraid of being hurt themselves. And even though I'm not really sure how I feel about the Maggie-Parker relationship, you have to admit that they can really be very honest with each other, and I think that's what builds a relationship, that communication. And so, you know, they're getting intimate, and all of a sudden this shadow smoke comes up. They kind of like drop like a bunch of times and land in this dark room, and they have no idea what's happening. And right as that happens, we see that witch from Tartarus, who we know as Fiona, Charity's sister, kind of pops up, wakes up. There's all these like hieroglyphic kind of symbol things all over the place, and then the episode ends. So something's going on there. I know that we all have been waiting to see what's going on with Fiona, the witch from Tartarus. I don't know if there's any connection between Maggie and Parker landing and Fiona waking up or what, but I hope that we find out soon. I'm also really excited for next week's episode because I think that's going to be a lot of fun to see Mel and Maggie switch places, kind of like Freaky Friday, and maybe they'll each have each other's powers. They're definitely going to have to live a day, at least in each other's lives. Now that they've established who they are as characters, what will it be like to see a different actress try to take on that role? And I think that's always a fun acting challenge. If you like this review, make sure to check out more of my Charmed videos and drop in the comments to continue the conversation. See ya!